Ujantam Rama Rameti Maduram Maduraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakam Vande Valmiki Kokilam Apadam Apahattaram Dhataram Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Shriramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham. Bhagavan Sri Ramachandra set the Muhurta for the army of Vanaras to march towards the shores. Rama now takes charge. He takes charge, and we see how the entire army majestically moves forward. Agreyatu balasyasya nilo margam avekshitum vrita shatasahasrena vanaranam dharasvinam. Rama commands, let the mighty Nila take charge, leading the army of thousands and thousands of Vanaras. Let him lead. Let Nila command and lead the way forward. Let him explore the way. Let him be right at the forefront as the army moves towards the shore. Sagaroga nipam bhimam agra anikam mahabalaha. Valmiki captures a glorious sight as though he's taking an aerial view as the army marches forward. He says, Sagaroga nipam. It looked like an oceanic stream. It looked like an entire ocean by itself was moving. Such was the size of the Vanara army. Sagaroga nipam bhimam agra anikam mahabalaha. Kavisimha prakushanto shatashota sahasrashaha. Let the best of Vanaras, the mighty Vanaras, let them be there right up front. So Rama now is giving instructions as a leader. He says this ocean of army should be led by able-bodied Vanaras, those who can put fear in the enemy's minds. Just by looking at those right up front, the enemy should start retreating. So let those mighty Vanaras be right at the front as the oceanic stream of Vanaras move forward towards the ocean. Gajacha, Girisam Kasho, Gavayacha, Mahavalaha, Gavakshacha, Agrato Yantu, Gavam Drupva Iva Rishabhaha. It's very important for us also to recognize some of the major Vanaras. Many times we say we know Ramayana, apart from the few central characters, we completely ignore all those who have contributed. It is very important to recognize some of those principal players. Throughout the Yuddha Kāṇḍam, we will see how each and every Vanara contributed to this mighty task. And here, Valmiki talks about some of the important players in the Vanara army. Gaja, Gavaya, Gavaksha. He says Gaja, who is equal to mountain. Apart from Hanuman, Sugriva was blessed with mighty soldiers who were not only Hanuman-like when it comes to might, they were also gifted with very special powers. So Rama here, and Rama recognizes that. He says, let Gaja, who is equal to mountain, Gavaya, a very strong warrior, Gavayacha Mahabala, Gavakshasta Agrato Yantu Gavam Drupta Iva Rishabhaha. Like a mighty bull, let them march forward. When Gavaya, Gavaksha, when they march forward like mighty bulls, that will set the trend for the army. Yatu Vanara Vahinya Vanara Plavatam Patihi Palayan Dakshinam Parshvam Rishabho Vanara Rishabhaha. While Gava, Gaja, Gavaya, Gavaksha march in the front, let Rishabha, who is also very mighty, let him guard from Dakshina. Dakshina Parshvam Rishabho Vanar Rishabhaha. Gandhahasti Iva Dashastu Tasasvi Gandhamadanaha. Yatu Vanara Vahinya Swayam Parshvam Adishtitaha. Let Gandhamadana protect on the sides, proceeding duly, guarding the left side. Let Gandhamadana take charge. Now he's forming the formation that needs to march forward and assigning tasks to each and everyone. Essentially, he's counseling Sugriva. Yasyami balamadye aham balogham abhiharshayan adiruhya hanumantam airavatam iva ishvaraha. Adiruhya hanumantam. Rama says, I will mount on the shoulders of Hanuman. Yasyami balamadye aham balogham abhiharshayan. If we have to see Dharma riding on Nishta, can we ever see Dharma riding on Nishta? When Rama rides on Hanuman, we can see the embodiment of Dharma riding on the embodiment of Kaikarya Nishta. Now, what a sight to watch Rama mounted on the shoulders of Hanuman. Rama says, Yasyami balamadye aham balogham abhiharshayan. I shall mount on Hanuman so that I can keep addressing all the Vanara army, keep them inspired, keep them motivated. So Rama says, I'll keep talking to them. It's not just marching forward, it's engaging with them. Aduruhya Hanumantam Airavatam Iva Ishvaraha. Just like how Indra mounted on Airavata marches in the war against the Danavas, I will mount on Hanuman. While I am on Hanuman's shoulders, my brother Lakshmana, Angadena Yesha Samyatum Lakshmana Cha Antakopamaha Sarvabhaumena Bhuteshu Dravina Adipatisyatha. Just like how Indra has Airavata as his vehicle, Kubera also has another element called Sarvabhauma. So let Lakshmana be on the shoulders of Angada, just like how Kubera is seated on Sarvabhauma. While I am seated on Hanuman's shoulders, let Lakshmana be seated on Angada's shoulders, and together Lakshmana and I will march along with the Vanara army. Jambavam cha Sushena cha Vegadarshi cha Vanaraha Visharajo Mahasattvaha Kukshim Rakshastute Trayaha. The mighty Jambavan, Sushena, the Vegadarshi, all of them, let them guard the middle part. And hearing these words of Rama, Sugriva, the valorous, he's really inspired. Now he has got the final instructions for marching. Not only has Rama set the Muhurta, he has given the instructions as to how to proceed forward. Now Sugriva gets into action, and the entire army of Vanaras, Valmiki captures the sight so very beautifully. Right from the top of the mountains, the whole, it's like an ocean. It's not an ordinary river going to join the ocean. We all have heard of rivers flowing and joining the ocean. Here an ocean is flowing to join another ocean. The massive oceanic stream of the Vanaras marching triumphantly towards the northern shore of the ocean. Aplavanta plavantacha gachantacha plavangamaha Shvelanto ninandantancha jagmugurvai dakshinam disham. With Rama's inspiring words, all the Vanaras are beginning to celebrate. Aplavantam, aplavanta plavantacha. Plavantaha. As it is, they are Vanaras. Vanaras are prone to jumping. Now they have all reasons. Plavantaha. They started to jump. It's not an ordinary march. It's like a march where each and everyone is jumping with joy. Plavantaha, aplavantaha. Not just ordinary jumping, overwhelmed jumping. Plavantaha, aplavantaha. Shevalantaha, jestfully. Ninandantascha, playing musical instruments. It's a sight to behold. The march is happening set to the tunes of various musical instruments, and the entire army. Now we will all wonder, this was the same army which possibly was worried some time back, and some parts of the army before were also clueless as to what's going to happen. The entire mood is completely different now. They are jestful, celebrating, jumping, overwhelmed with joy. Where is that fear that seemed to have gripped them before? They seem to be completely freed from fear. The important thing here to understand is to be bold, to be courageous. We don't need to be freed of fear. All that we need is a purpose that is bigger than fear. Many times we wonder, we have our own fears. Each and every one have our own fears. After all, we are human. And it is impossible to get rid of our fears. If we attempt to get rid of our fears, it's a futile attempt. We can never get rid of your fears. But to become fearless is not about getting rid of fears. It is to identify with a purpose which is greater than the fear. The moment we get to identify with a purpose which is greater than the fear, a purpose that is lofty, a purpose that is inspiring, a purpose that motivates us, then all the fears that are there, they can still remain, but they will no longer grip us. They will no longer paralyze us. This is exactly what has happened to the Vanaras. They are now with courage, fearlessly marching forward, because now they have that opportunity to engage in Ramakarya. What a noble cause to identify with. When we wake up in the morning every day, the energy that we can get is from our identification with a noble cause. If we have a cause which is higher, which is lofty, then the energy automatically flows from that cause through us. And this is exactly what is happening to Vanaras, because now they have a cause that is energizing them. And Valmiki captures that scene. He says, Sagaram cha ambaram prakyam ambaram sagaropamam sagaram cha ambaram cha iti nirvesham adrishyatha. Valmiki is Valmiki. He says, the vast ocean looked like the sky. The sky looked like the ocean. The ocean and the sky look like without any distinction. And there is another ocean moving towards the ocean. It is all ocean everywhere. What a sight to behold, Valmiki writes. Satu nilena vidivata swaraksha susumahita sagarasya uttare tire sadhusena viniyeshkita. Then the entire army reaches the northern shore of the ocean. They all get stationed there. Immediately, Nila takes charge. It's very important. Vanaras are Vanaras. They need to be kept in check. As it is, they are jumping with joy, and their enthusiasm has to be moderated. Somebody needs to moderate their enthusiasm. So therefore, Nila takes charge, and everybody is stationed. As they reach the shore, they march, and then they go, and then on the northern shore, everybody gets seated. Maindacha, Vividacha, Ubhau Tatra, Vanara Pungavau, Vicheratuchatam Senam, Rakshatam, Sarvato Disham. Mainda and Vida, distinguished Vanaras, they keep moving about in all directions, asking all the Vanaras, we have reached the shore, now let's wait for the next instructions. Save your energies. We have now to still cross over the ocean. We only reached the northern shore. Now the task of crossing over the ocean is still there, and still they are clueless as to how they are going to cross over the ocean. Nimishkayam tu senayam tire ananadipate pashpastam lakshmanam drishtva ramo vachanam abravi. Now, after getting to the proximity of the ocean, Sita is not very close, not very far. Now, Rama is once again able to experience that pain. Rama looks at the ocean and looks at Lakshmana. Rama now becomes very contemplative. Everybody is settled. Now Rama is sharing his mental reflections. Obviously, whom will he share it with? With his own brother, and who is none other than his very shadow. We have seen this before as well in the earlier khandas. When Rama has to share his innermost thoughts, even very private thoughts, sometimes we wonder how Rama is vocally sharing his very intimate thoughts and experiences about Sita with Lakshmana. We need to understand Lakshmana is Rama's shadow. He is Adisesha. Obviously, just like how Mata is inseparable from Rama, Adisesha is also inseparable. So therefore, we see Rama reflecting many a times, and he is now in a very reflective, very pensive mood, and he is also overcome with anguish, because he is now, Sita is near and yet far, and therefore Shokaccha kilakalena gacchahi apagacchati. Mamacha apashyataha Kāṇḍam ahanyahani vardhate. Lakshmana, normally it said so that over time, any sorrow just diminishes over time. This is what people say. Over time, everything gets forgotten. All kinds of grief comes to an end. This is what is nature, and this is what everybody say. But I don't think it's the case here, Lakshmana. It is not so in my case. It looks like my agony only seems to be increasing day by day. Mamacha apyashata Kāṇḍam ahanyahanya vardhate. On the other hand, when it is said that shoka has to keep coming down with time, my shoka seems to be increasing with time, and it's only growing. I'm unable to bear that separation from Sita anymore here, Lakshmana. How is it possible for me now to withstand that anymore? I've come all this way here, but still I'm gripped with this shoka. Now, one may wonder again, why is Rama behaving like a very ordinary person? Just like an ordinary person, he is wailing for his wife. Yes, Rama has to behave like an ordinary person. The whole purpose of Ramayana is to show how to conduct life as an ordinary person. This is the purpose of Ramayana. We need to keep telling ourselves what is the central purpose of Ramayana. Otherwise, we miss the point and we will start completely misunderstanding what's going on. Yes, Rama is wailing. The ordinary person has to wail. Otherwise, a human is a human only when he has emotions. Without an emotion, what is the difference between a human and a non-human? Rama shows how to wade through, navigate life, experiencing various kinds of emotions. So therefore, he has to behave like an ordinary person. So Rama here, we have to see three dimensions of Rama here. As a husband, he has to wail for Sita. He has to have that shoka. Otherwise, a husband is suspect. And I'm sure any wife on any day would have somebody like Rama who would walk thousands of miles in search of her, rather than somebody who forgets and sits somewhere. So therefore, as an ideal husband, we see how Rama conducts his life. This is a benchmark for an ideal husband. All the husbands here can only aspire. We can get nowhere near what Rama can do. At least the aspiration can be there. Ideal husband, an ideal Kshatriya. As an ideal Kshatriya, he has to wail for Sita, who is incarcerated in Ravana's Shokavatika. As a Kshatriya, he has to have that shoka, his inability to prevent and his inability to extricate her on time. So as a Kshatriya also, there is every reason for him to have anguish. More importantly, as Paramatma, he also has to have shoka. Paramatma, why should Paramatma, who is always in Ananda, we also have shoka? We all only know Paramatma telling us not to have shoka, Mashuchaha. Paramatma keeps telling every Jivatma, Mashuchaha, should not have shoka. Yes, but that same Paramatma, can he be in shoka? Obviously, he can be in shoka. Ashrita viraha asahyatvam mardavam. Now, one of the beautiful qualities of Paramatma. Paramatma has several kalyana gunas. One of the important kalyana gunas, we all talk about is Saushilya, Saulabhya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, Gambhirya, Audharya, Chaturya, Sthairya, Dhairya, Shaurya, Parakrama, Satyakamatva, Satyasankalpatva, Kritittatva. A list of kalyana gunas. We fail to recognize one very important kalyana guna, Mardava. Very, very unique. This Mardava guna, what is Mardava? Our Acharya has defined Mardava guna as Ashrita viraha asahyatva. Ashrita viraha. He cannot tolerate separation from his Ashritas. He is always grieving for union with his bhaktas. We think we are grieving for union with him. He is grieving for union with us. Every day we fail to take a step towards him. We are not at loss. He seems at loss. Seems he is ever grieving. Na ekaki na navate shastrasya. No, he does not want to celebrate, to have that Brahmananda on his own. He wants his people together with him. And here, Rama's wailing for Sita is a Paramatma's wailing for a Jivatma. He is unable to bear that separation. He wants that Jivatma caught in the samsara, in the jungle of Ashokavatika. And therefore here, Rama says, Mamacha apashyata kāṇḍam ahanyahan vadhate. Every day, as every day grows, my shoka is growing manifold. He Lakshmana. Vahivatayata kanya tam sprishva mam apisprisha paime gatra samsparshaha chandra drishti samagamaha. His mental reflections, Rama is sharing with Lakshmana. He is looking at the wind. Oh, wind, how can I touch Sita? It's only through you. Thanks to you, it is this wind which is touching me now. I'm so very happy. I'm so blessed. I'm so very grateful that the same wind has touched my beloved, and now it's touching me. I'm thankful to you. He's thanking the wind, and he's looking at the moon, and he says, I'm thankful to you because you have seen her eyes, and through you, I'm able to see Sita's eyes. No, Rama is trying to bridge that gap that he had, that separation that he is unable to experience, that unable to bear, and he's basically sharing his mind with Lakshmana. Kedarasya iva kedarasya udakasya nirudakaha upasnehena jivami jivantim yat shunomitam. Just like how one paddy field, even if it does not get rains, and if the adjacent paddy field is watered, a little bit of a water will flow, and this paddy field will survive because of adequate waters in the adjacent. Because I'm able to listen about Sita's well-being, thanks to Hanuman, I have listened. That listening alone is keeping me alive. My prana is there in Ashokavatika, but I'm able to sustain only because I'm able to continue to Jivantim yat shunomitam. Just listening about Sita is keeping my prana. I'm able to survive. Swabhavatanuka nunam shokena anashanena cha bhuyastanutara Sita deshakale viparyata. Shokena, because anguish. Anashanena. She says, how will my Sita be now? As it is, she's Sukumari, very gentle, very slender. Even when she was right back in Ayodhya, she was very finicky about food. Now, she wouldn't have eaten for such a long time. What would happen to her well-being? She would have lost so much of weight. And not only that, she would have been completely drained of all energy. Desha kala viparyata. In a place of adversity, where everything was against her. The place was against her, the people were against her, the time was against her. I can't imagine how she was able to survive without food, place, time, everything being against her. Kadanurakyasendrasya nighaya urasisayakan Sitam pratyaharishyami shokam utsrujya manasam. When will I bring back Sita? By lodging arrows on the chest of Ravana. And how can I put an end to this agony of mine, He Lakshmana? Evam vilapatastasya tatra ramas bhimataha dinakshayan mandavapur bhaskaro stampagatam. As the Bhaskara standing on the land was wailing, the Bhaskara there also decided to wail and started to set very fast. The sun decided to immediately set. If sun was not able to see Rama's anguish, he decided enough is enough. Let there be darkness, because as it is, the real sun is setting down. I might as well set. Ashwasito Lakshmanena Ramaha Sandhya Upasatha Smaran Kamalapatrakshim Sitam Shoka Kulin Krataha. Kamalapatrakshi, the sun may set, but that Kamalapatrakshi's eyes will never set in Rama's hearts. Thinking of Kamalapatrakshi, Valmiki writes, what is important here to notice? A very simple thing that Valmiki registers which if we don't focus, we will miss the point. He says, Smaran Kamalapatrakshim Sitam Shokakulim Kritaha Ashvasito Lakshmanena Ramaha Sandhyam Vipasata. Rama was in grief, but he did not fail to perform his duty of Sandhya. He was in grief, but nothing could stop him moving forward, going about doing his duties. What it means that emotions will come, emotions will go. Now, this is again Rama behaving like an ordinary person. Yes, behaving like an ordinary person, he shows how an ordinary person can also be extraordinary. This is the example. Why Rama is a supreme example for us? Because he is like us in situations that we experience, and he shows how in every situation an ordinary can become extraordinary by hooking oneself to one's principles, principle-centered life. If life is governed by certain principles, then even ordinary becomes extraordinary. So Rama's life is governed by dharma, and obviously it has to be an extraordinary life. An ordinary man shows how to lead life extraordinary. That's the inspiring message that Rama continues to keep giving us. Now, the scene shifts from northern end of the shore to the southern end of the shore. Valmiki also is a great scriptwriter. So the scene now completely shifts. Here is a scene. On the one hand, we see the ocean-like army, all seated, ready for action. And on the other end, it is all darkness and quiet, unknown quiet. There is stinking, unstinging. Why stinging? Because there is defeat, and also sting, because defeat stings. And Ravana was unable to bear what happened. What ensued when Hanuman was there was beyond his imagination. He was going through excruciating times. Ravana, who has won 1,000,000 battles, all of a sudden finds somebody who is looking like a monkey, completely taming him and his entire army effortlessly. Ravana couldn't digest what he saw. For the first time, Ravana had to admit in his defeat, which was not there in his dictionary at all. No, they say it is not destruction that results in defeat. It is acceptance of defeat that results in destruction. Ravana ended up accepting defeat. Ravana had to do some cover-up job. He engages Mayasura and gets complete revamping of Lanka done. No, Mayasura, using his mystical powers, completely revamps the Lanka, which was burnt down by Hanuman. But the exteriors could be revamped. The interiors were still shaken. The interiors were in shambles. While the exteriors were all structures put back and perfumes put everywhere. So outside there could be smelling good. Inside it was all stinking and smelling bad. Everyone, not only Ravana, even for all the Rakshasas. It is said that when life smells bad, there are two options: either block your nose or clean up the environment. Only two things are possible. The Rakshasas are the types who don't understand that it's not about cleaning up. They're all holding their noses. What is the point? No, Ravana suddenly realizes it's not enough. Some cleanup has to be done. But Ravana, all said and done, also is somebody who knows the Shastras. No, we see several parallels between Ravana and Duryodhana. Both of them know Shastra. Both of them know what is right and what is wrong. They are not ignorant of right and wrong. This is what is the dangerous thing about these people. When somebody is ignorant of what is right and wrong, you can even excuse them when they commit crimes. But those who are aware of what is right and wrong, and in spite of that commit crimes, that crime is not acceptable. Ravana is in that category. He knows what is right. He knows what is wrong. He knows the Shastras. But still, he has the audacity to commit crimes, thinking that he is the one who can get away with anything. Lankayam tu kritam karma ghoram dushtva bhavaham rakshasendro hanumata chakrena iva mahatmana abravit rakshasan sarvan piya kinchidavan mukhaha. Piya kinchidavan mukhaha. With his head facing down, Ravana was not able to see eye to eye with his ministers. For the first time ever in the history, it seems Ravana was looking down, face descended a little. He was overcome with shame. His head was bent low in disgrace. Humiliation was unbearable. And therefore he was seated on his throne, mighty throne, but he was not looking at anybody. Everybody was looking at him. He was looking down. The mighty king of Lanka was speaking the language of defeat. Darshita cha pravishta cha Lanka dushprasaha puri tenavanara matrena drishta sita cha janaki. He's speaking to himself. How all this can happen? This monkey comes. He creates a ruckus. He does all kinds of destruction. He overpowers everybody and he discovers Sita. He goes back and we are all watching, unable to do nothing. Prasado darshita chaitya pravara rakshata hataha avilocha puri lanka sarva hanumata kritaha. The 1,000-pillared building is completely taken over by him and destroyed. All my great Rakshasas, whom I thought are my sources of strength, get completely vanquished. What was happening to city of Lanka, which got completely burned down? All over my watch. What was going on? Even a nightmare would have been better than this. What would have happened? Kim karishyami badram va kimba yuktam anantaram uchchatavna samattam yat kritam cha sukritam bhavet. Ravana never had the practice of getting any counsel. Suddenly, Ravana thinks, maybe after all, I should engage in some kind of counseling with my own ministers. This is what this kind of a destruction and defeat can bring. However, Ravana is Ravana. Mantramulam hi vijayam prahuradyo manasvinaha tasmad vai rochaye mantram ravam prati mahabalaha. He's looking at, you're all great people and I would like to know what you think is the right course of action. Everybody is surprised. What is happening to our Ravana? Is this Ravana or some imposter sitting there? But they also do not know. When Ravana says, I want you to say something, he's basically saying, I want you to say what I want to hear. This is what he's essentially meaning. And, Ravana also is only known to give advices. He's never known to take advice. They say advising actually is like breathing. Advising is like breathing. Only when you breathe in, you can breathe out. If you are capable of taking advice, only you have to you are capable of giving advice. Otherwise, people are very good giving advices, but when it comes to taking, they are very bad takers, very good givers. Ravana was also like that, but at least now he is trying to engage in the charade of advice seeking. It's only an act, because Ravana cannot bear to go through what has happened. So he's trying to find ways and means of coming to terms with what has happened here. And now Ravana is talking some very wise words. All of us, there are also a few things that we can learn from Ravana, even though he doesn't mean it. Now, here, we have seen earlier Rama talking about Purushottama, Sugriva talking about Purushottama. Now, Ravana is talking about Purushottama. He's saying, Trivida Purusha Loke Uttama Adama Madhyamaha Tesham tu Samavetanam Gunadosham Vadim Ahim. He says, there are three kinds of people: Uttama Purusha, Madhyama Purusha, Adama Purusha. Now, this is Ravana's definition. No, but these are wise words, no doubt. What are those three types according to him? The category one, the exemplary people. So, Uttama Purusha. Mantribir Hita Samyuktaihi Samartair Mantranirnaye Pitrairva Api Saman Arthair Bandhavai Apivahitaihi Sahito Mantritva Karma Arthanam Pravartayet Taivecha Kurute Yattam Tamahu Purushottamam. Who are those Uttama Purushas? Those who are exemplary people who engage in seeking advice from the council of ministers, wise ministers who understand the welfare of the kingdom. Hita samyuktaihi samarthair mantrarinai, who can take right decisions, and friends who have the well-being, one's well-being in their mind, relatives who also know what is the right things to do. One should engage all of them and seek their advice. And after getting their advice, Sahito mantrayitvaya karmarambhavan pravartayet, then taking the pros and cons of what they give, then one takes the right decision. Also taking into account providence. Daivacha kurute yatnam. Is Ravana only speaking? No, Ravana is only speaking. Now, all the speaking is fine. Eventually, what will he do is what is the question here? After all, we have to give some credit to Ravana that he's also learned Shastras. So let him also give some advice. Even if somebody is giving the right advice, the person is not right, the advice is right, we still have to take it. So Ravana here is talking about who is that category 1. Then he takes category 2. The category 1 are the exemplary. The category 2, the lone rangers. Eko artam vimurshade deko dharme prakrute manaha ekakaryani kurute tam tamahur madhyamam nara. Madhyama, uttama, madhyama are the lone rangers. They are independent thinkers. They don't want to seek advice from everybody. They will rely on their own abilities to make their own decisions. They do not seek advice from anybody at all. They only have faith on their own abilities, and they will go based on what they think is right. They are Madhyama. Then category 3, the basest, the vilest. Gunadoshava anishchitya tyaktva daiva yapashrayam karishyami itihakaryam upekshete sa naradhamaha. Adhama, naradhamaha. Who are these? They seek no advice. They cannot discriminate between right and wrong. They cannot discriminate, so they will also not ask for what is right and wrong. They will do what they like. They even ignore providence. They take arbitrary decisions without really going through any process of decision making, without considering pros and cons, and they end up big failures. Now Ravana defines these 3 kind of people. If Vibhishana was there, he would have asked, I know which category you belong to, Ravana. Now, yata ime purusha nityam uttamadhava madhyamaha evam mantro api vijñeya uttama adhama madhyamaha. Not only are advice seekers categorized into 3. Ravana says, advice seekers, uttama, madhyama, adhama. Even advice also can be categorized into 3, he says. Uttama advice, madhyama advice, adhama advice. Advice is also of 3 categories. Ekamatyam upagamya shastra drishtera chakshusha mantrino yatra nirastas tamahuhu mantramottamam. Mantramuttama. Mantram means advice here. Mantram, uttamam. Uttama advice. What is uttama advice? Is when somebody is seeking advice, what is the great supreme advice that one can get? When everybody who is giving advice are all wise. Number 1, they all know the Shastras. They all put their collective minds together for the welfare of the one who is seeking advice, and collectively they are of one single opinion based on the Shastra, and that advice that they give, that is the supreme advice, which is very, full loaded with wisdom. Ravana is sometimes also is loaded with wisdom. Bhakvyo api matayo gatva mantrena hi artha nirnaye punaryatra ekatam praptas mantro madhyama smritaha. What is madhyama? Madhyama advice. Mantra, which is madhyama. Bhavyo api matayo gatva mantrino hi artha nirnaye. First, the people who are giving advice are all in conflict with each other. So they are not able to come with a collective proposal. So they have to end up with a compromise. When there is no consensus, there can only be compromise. So when they come up with a compromise based on conflicting views, and when such kind of advice is given, then such an advice is madhyama mantra. Anyonya mathim asthaya yatra sampratibhashyate nacha ekamatye shreyosti mantraso adhama uchyate. The advice which is adhama, which is basically incoherent, inconsistent, not clear, essentially a recipe for disaster. So that is a adhama. No, it's essentially a first class advice is an advice which helps us to fly. Put simply, a first class advice is an advice which will help us to fly. A second class advice is an advice which will help us to float. The third class advice, an advice will force us to drown. This is exactly the three kinds of advice Ravana is talking about. Now, Ravana all of a sudden has not become a man of wisdom. He is only reflecting on what he has learned in Shastras. Now, is he going to apply what he has learned is what we need to see. The difference that we're going to see here is the Shastras are the same. He is only recounting what the Shastras say about advice seeking, advice giving, and advice. Now, what happens, what ensues, and how Ravana, whether applies or not applies, because the character of a person is not about the information that he has gathered. Has he assimilated that information? It is not about collecting information on what the Shastras say. Are we able to apply it, practice it? No. Now, Ravana has definitely helped us from one angle. He has given us some good wisdom for us to practice. Whether he practices or not, we know, but we will soon see what is going to ensue. Until then, let us reflect on not Ravana's conversation with his ministers. Let us reflect on Bhagavan's Madhava Guna. This is what is important for us, because his grief for each and every one of us. He is grieving. Why? Because we are delaying our union with him. Should we any more delay? Let us contemplate on that. Jai Shri Ram.